back to another episode of Beyond the Fourth Wall. I'm 𝗕𝗃𝗀𝗄𝗏.
I'm 𝗕𝗲𝗹.
And we are the co-artistic directors of Fourth Wall Theater Company. And tonight we are so excited to have with us our guest, Matt Hune, who is our dear friend and the artistic director of the amazing Rec Room in Houston. We're so glad that you're here. We're so glad Rec Room is doing well. You're still hanging on, surviving, and we can't wait to hear about what you're doing. So let's get started.
Yeah.
I just want to say I'm so thrilled that you both are doing this, and to just talk about the art form, I think is so fun, and I appreciate being here.
Oh, well, we're so glad you're here. We've found it really, just lovely to keep in touch with our colleagues too, and just to offer the community of audiences, whether it's yours and ours, coming together, an opportunity to listen to what's going on and how people feel about the future and what they're doing in their lives, so that they just have a sense of Houston's community staying intact, staying together, communicating, and knowing that we're all really still here, and we're gonna survive through this, and we're gonna come out on the other end with theater and the community intact. So
yeah, so why don't we start with, clearly Rec Room is alive and well and producing during COVID, and so why don't you tell us what it is you're doing right now, and maybe a little bit about what you have done in COVID, or start there.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say that COVID has been good to us, but it has in many ways. I'm trying to find the positives. And in many ways, it's allowed us to sort of just ground the plane for a little bit and do some maintenance. When we started immediately doing shows, and I wouldn't recommend anyone to do that ever. We really didn't build the foundation and the infrastructure that we really needed. So we're able right now, I think, to take that time. And it's been a real privilege to be able to do that, because I don't think, we really wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise without having to say, okay, we're going to take off a season. I hate to, we would never have done that, but it's allowed us to sort of stop and say, oh, this thing over here that we've sort of been pushing to the corner for a long time, let's make it stronger, or let's fix it, or whatever. So
what's an example of something that you've been able to do?
Well, I think, it like the space itself, we've been able to really get that more functional for us. I think, we just kind of jumped in the space and started producing. Now, we're giving it a paint job. We're really adding dressing rooms. We're really clearing out, organizing shop. We're doing a little remodel of the bar and the lobby, spilling the bar out into the lobby and allowing that experience that's outside of the theater itself to be upgraded, I would say.
That's a great thing about your space. Tell our audience where your space is, and you've mentioned that there's a bar. Just describe a little.
We have a couple of pictures of the space too. So as you're talking, this is not going to be what your renovations include, but Catherine will throw up the bar and the theater.
Yeah. So we are located 2 blocks north of Minute Maid Park on Jackson and Franklin, 100 Jackson Street, and we're in a warehouse that is adjacent to one of the oldest buildings in Houston, the Wagon Works building. We're kind of behind that, but it's on the same lot, same complex. And we are sort of situated between all the courthouses. You may have passed us unknowingly going to jury duty or going to an Astros game. But towards the east end of downtown, but still in downtown proper. I love our pocket. It's being built up. There's, I think, 2 condos going up now. So there's a lot of revitalization going on in our area. But yeah, we have a very humble, makeshift theater that there it is. Those were our old seats that we got from a church for free. That was that's Stephanie Whittle's Wax there with me, who is the co-founder of Rec Room. And we just have slowly been making it work. Another thing we're doing, we're painting the theater. We're adding grid space for lights. so all of those things that, like, you know, when you go into a space, like, yeah, let's do theater. And then, you know, all the big ticket items that just take a while. And I know you both know that.
Yeah.
And to really build. One of the things I really truly love about our spaces is I'm guessing about 600 square foot bar that is really, that is connected to our, I say lobby, it's really a hallway. There
it is.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the things that I'm really passionate about with Rec Room is creating an experience for everyone coming in that starts the moment you park your car or the moment you walk into the space. So it's, you know, I love that we tend to have people come early and stay late.
Yeah.
And that bar is just a place for, you know, to hang out with someone you might not have known you'd run into, old friends, new friends, artists, designers.
No,
So,
I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you have. And I think it's a great, you know, one of the things we always talk about is difficult in theater is attracting younger audiences. And I think having a gathering space where people can socialize, they can bring a date, really is an attractive addition and complement to theater for a younger audience who's looking for something to do. You know, we have a gallery in our building, which helps people have something to wander around and look at and participate in, so they don't just have to be stuck standing outside, or they do have something to look at. But I think the bar environment is wonderful for people to get to know their own fellow patrons, to have a date, have a drink. I think it's a really smart thing and a wonderful way for people to like to go to the theater, not just because of the theater experience, but the social experience.
Yeah, you know, Rec Room really was born out of, I did a living room series. So I did 4 productions, y'all know.
Oh, we'll show you that too. We have a picture of that.
Okay. I mean,
I think Sonic Social Youth. What's the youth one by?
This is our youth. That's the
this is our youth.
set.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are flats. That's a theater set just situated in my living room. That was our old living room in a Montrose townhouse. And we sat 22 people, and we had very lucrative long runs because we sat 22
people.
But it was, honestly, it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done.
Great.
But
a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was great. And but I will say, Alex and I had just gotten married just before we did that. And and we hadn't gone on our honeymoon, but basically it was like after that 4th show and a little before, it was just like an ultimatum: get this theater out of my house or else.
Our marriage is over before it began.
We closed the last show, which was it was with Greg Dean and Valentina. Blackbird, thank you. And then we left for Costa Rica, I think the next day.
There you go.
On our honeymoon.
Like,
but
okay, honey.
That experience was, I mean, I've seen a lot of theater in my life, and that was unique.
Yeah.
You went to someone's house, went in the front door, went upstairs in their house. I mean, I knew you already. I knew Alex a little bit, but it was still totally unique. And then there's this set in the middle of your living room, and it really was like, we looked at the picture, that could be a set in any small theater in across the world. But it was in your living room, and it was so intimate. And, you know, being one of those 22 people who was, you know, in that, that was a huge gift you gave to us.
That was the closest thing in Houston I've ever had to a New York experience.
That means a lot to me. I mean, I think my inspiration was, you know, I kind of am heavily influenced by the Chicago theater scene. And same thing, like you just find a space and you do a show and people come to it, you know what I mean? And that really, I was like, well, you know, I don't have a space, but I do have a living room. So that was just it. And I think people were expecting, like, I don't know what people were expecting, but I would imagine like, oh, theater and living room. Okay, I'm going to sit on someone's couch and they're going to kind of act something out.
In the
But no,
corner.
it was
Right,
really
yeah.
like we roped it off with like,
Yeah.
it was a black box within the
Yeah.
living room.
I'll admit, the first
Right.
time we went, that is what I expected.
Right.
I thought we were just going to kind of be in your living room, like, you know,
Right.
like this room here, and
Yeah.
then it would kind of happen around us
Right.
or something.
But that's what reminded me so much of New York, because I remember once I went out to Astoria to see a show in a garage, and I thought, oh, they'll just be sitting around. But the chairs were tiered in front of the garage door, and when the garage door opened like a curtain,
Huh.
it was built like a black box set. And I was like,
Cool.
oh my God, this is a theater. Yeah, and that's what that reminded me of.
I
Same
love that.
kind of thing. Yeah. That was
Yeah,
great.
but I think like that feeling of like just inviting people into my home to see a show.
Mhm.
I don't know. There's just something really, you know, I hate to say it, sound cliche, but that to me is like what excites me. That's the kind of magic I think that I love and often expect when I go to the theater. And I enjoy, like, I like your space where it's more than just the play. You get to interact with art. You get to interact with each other, and it becomes this sort of just place to hang out. And to me, that is less, you know, it's more inviting, I'll say.
I think
it's more
that's
fun.
true. I do. I think it makes it feel more like it's personal.
Yeah.
Like it becomes something that's that you feel like is part of your personal life. You're like, this is a place that's personal to me.
Yeah.
I have a relationship with the place.
Yeah.
And I don't think you always feel that way when you walk into something that's, you know, a big, giant, you know, multi-million-dollar bricks and mortar building. You're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
visiting an institution to see something. And that doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself or it's not a great show, but it's not the same kind of experience.
But, you
Yeah.
know, I will say, I've seen, how to put this delicately, I'll put it a different way. At both of our venues, which are both small, intimate spaces, I have seen what works. It works when the design is good. And you've found, and we've found, designers who understand our various
Our
venues.
venues, yeah.
And they,
Yeah.
you know, they may, like, I think of the set that, the old people radiation play, damn
The
it.
children.
The children, yeah.
Yeah.
That set compared to the set, now I'm going to have to do the same thing. The two guys on the street corner play.
Passover.
Passover.
Mhm.
Both fantastic sets. And it.
Oh, I thought he was going to insult
transformed-
someone.
No. Both of those sets were so different and
Yeah.
transformed that
Yeah.
space. With bad design, that's not going to happen. I've
Well-
seen things not in your theater, but in our theater that were not produced by us, where the design was not good, and suddenly the space is not
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
kind
feel
of
right.
ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, design is such an important component to me. And I will say, I don't know what we would do without 𝗕𝗲𝗄𝗃𝗃. And I will sing his praises any day. And he, you know, he's really adamant about, and he always says to me, you know, I'm not building a theatrical set in this space. He says he's got to build, he's really building specifically, he's doing the real thing. Because we are so close, because we have 60 seats in our house,
Mhm.
and you know, you're literally sitting, you know, a few feet from what's going on. You know, with Passover, the two guys on the street corner, he poured cement, he poured concrete in that space and created that street corner. So to me, you know, I'm primarily in awe with how much he does and how specific he gets with his design within the budget he has.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing we all face. Is
Yeah.
like, yeah. Can you do it? Of course I can do it. How much money you got?
Yeah.
$2,000,
Yeah.
$1,000
Yeah.
for you know, here 3,000 for you and 3,000 to
Mhm.
buy the stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
build. I mean, it's nothing compared
Yeah.
to other theaters in town.
Mhm.
It's really nothing.
I know.
These people do it, and they love doing it.
Right.
And we're very lucky. Yeah. Well, so tell us what Rec Room's up to now.
Okay, so we have our sound scripts project that we're just finishing out. We have one more play next week, but this has been a really just an organic response to like, oh, we can't do shows anymore. What can we do? And we just turned to the Rec Room Writers Group, which was a group of 10 playwrights that we've had. And we've produced 9 of their works into these audio plays. So they had developed these plays over the course of, well, I'll say a year now, but they met bi-weekly in our bar, and they just read each other's work, gave each other notes. This was really a project that was spearheaded by Sophia Watt. And she has been really, one, she's amazing. 2, she's been really crucial in the component that, you know, I'm passionate about, but like, you know, running, we all run everything. It's like, we only have so much bandwidth, but she's been able to create this writers group where it's just giving Texas playwrights time and space to develop new plays. You know, I really hope, you know, Houston, us being the 4th largest city in the nation and gonna probably beat out Chicago at some point, you know, we deserve, you know, some of the best theater in the country and the world. And in order for that to happen, I think we need to support, you know, work that is homegrown.
Well, I think what you're doing is so important. And I was having a conversation with someone about what you're doing, providing a free place for writers to write and have feedback and have a group environment. And I've talked to Philip about doing something with us as well, and maybe even talking to you about collaborating that and even doing a festival of plays, so that audiences can move from place to place and have more. Because if you don't have new works coming out of your city, you're not going to progress.
Right.
But, you know, and it's been hard to get that off the ground. And what you talked about before, the way that we started and the way that you started, when you start just producing huge numbers of plays, having the bandwidth and the time and the staff to be able to nurture and encourage new work is really a tough thing to do. And we don't have a good, I'm working on trying to figure out how to encourage a granting program that supports long-term workshops. That's a really important part. And you know that from Chicago, I know that from New York, that if you don't have a workshop environment in place that can support some funding for a workshop type audience to develop, people like what's happening at the Alley's New Play Festival a little bit, but where you can have that come through a whole process where people watch the entire process of a play to a full production, not just from one reading series to where they go, oh, this is 3 months. Now we're going to do it again in 3 months. Now we're going to do it again. And then we're going to produce it in a year and a half. If we could produce that situation and get some funding from Cullen or, you know, one of the local foundations, we could really change the landscape a little bit, because playwrights would want to come here to do that.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more proud of like these playwrights and the work that they've done, and you know, their support that they've given each other. And I'm just kind of in this place of like, okay, how can we support them more? And I think this virtual turn that we've done has been able to get their works seen by more people, and well, not seen, heard.
Well,
so that
real fast for anyone watching, in the message chat bar, there is a link to sound scripts at Rec Room, and I assume can people listen to all of them right now, or?
Right now, we have only one up at a time. So we'll have our last one up next Thursday. But
probably if you're listening to this and you click on that, that's what you'll get. But you should do that.
And David, we'll get to your question in a few minutes.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, Matt. If you don't provide the space for writers and people to be able to get together and collaborate, and you've been, you know, you've led the way in that, and I think that's amazing. And you've helped me spark my interest in trying to jump on board with that, because it's not a hard thing to do. It's just giving your space over a couple days a week, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And you should. You know, I feel very excited and proud that you're in this community doing that. It's a huge thing. So thank you
Well,
very
and it
much.
sounds like Sophia's been a real driving
Well,
force.
Sophia, yeah, she's
Yeah.
amazing. I know she assistant directed with me on Pride and Prejudice, and I don't know if you saw Pride and Prejudice,
Yeah.
but it's a huge endeavor. Philip was in it, and I would not have made it through that process if I hadn't had
Yeah,
her.
Sophia
She's
did
one
a
of the
lot of
most
work.
organized, on top of her job, people I've ever met. If I had not had her helping me track and be behind all of the action that was happening, because that play was like 3 plays in 1 play, and
Mhm.
if I hadn't had her, I would not have been able to open it when we opened it. I couldn't have
Well,
kept up with everything and done it.
yeah. I mean, I'll just say if any artistic directors are watching this, I mean, she's a fantastic director.
Yes.
She's nice. So, I mean, yeah.
Yes, she had wonderful ideas
I
for
was
me.
gonna
I know
say
we're pushing Sophia right now, but she
Very kind.
she also is so eager to learn and to be a team player and collaborate. She was just lovely. And at
Well-
some point in time, we're gonna have an opportunity for her with us
Well,
too.
yeah. I mean, I will say Rec Room has really become like, it is her, Stefan, and I. We're the people with our boots on the ground every day, and I couldn't we also, whenever we're not working together, it's the sort of thing as we're in our quarantine bubble, so we've had these
Yep.
like weekend dinners too, so
Oh, that's
they're
nice.
just fantastic.
Yeah.
There's this question in the chat bar, and I think let's push to
Yeah.
that. We at Fourth Wall, we've planned a season that we hope will start. I got the COVID in the fall.
He did have the
I
COVID,
did.
but we're both better. Yeah.
Anyway, and we're anticipating having a season in 21-22 of regular 4-play season for us. And but of course we're not announcing it yet because we need to see how the vaccine performs and
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera. And I know, because we chatted just a little before we went on air, that you're sort of in the same boat. I'll let you talk about it. But David's question is, I'll just read it. With such a small house and spacing so difficult, how do you anticipate coming back to in-person productions? And I think that's an interesting question.
And I think what David's asking is if we have to take out an aisle and seat people as couples or with 6 feet between them. So you're reducing your audience to 50%, 40%. Is that
I mean, you only
fiscally?
have 60 seats, right?
Well, and what you're talking about is if your production budget is $60,000 and you're only making a third of that back if you have normal seating, and then you're asking to cut your seats in half, is it fiscally even viable for you to produce if you can't do more than 50%
How do you
seating?
feel about that?
That's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. So we're sort of at this sort of like plan A, plan B, plan C place. Plan A, we are hoping that we can open a show, the last week of October and start our season then. I understand that is, I feel like that is, if that happens, I will be jumping for joy. Plan B is, we may have to take out some seats, that we would take a hit on that. And we wouldn't be able to do that for more than 1, maybe 2 productions.
Get that.
So already we need to get close to selling out our houses at 60. And if we don't, we're kind of at like, just a wash, or we have yet to really hit a loss. But yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And it's something that I think many theater companies are sort of like trying to figure out. But for us, we're also, do we look at alternative venues? Do we look at outdoor spaces?
Yeah.
I'm typically sometimes averse to that, depending on the show. I don't want to do an outdoor show just because we need to. I think it would have to be the right one for a reason, because I feel very particular about putting together a season. So yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's one of those like, okay, we've planned our season. If we have to socially distance, which we may just need to do that for the first production, or we can still push back. You know, perhaps we don't start in October of 21, we start in January, February of 22.
Yeah, I think most people have that as a plan. I know for us, you know, we have it on the docket as early as late September, but we can push we only have one show in the fall. So we can push that show all the way up to almost December. And then we start the rest of then we squash our 3 shows in the spring. The anticipation that we might not be able to do the fall, but if we can do the fall, we can adjust that date pretty freely. One of the things for us, we know is a big deal, and I don't know what your feelings are about this, and other people don't necessarily understand this. We are an equity theater. I know you use equity artists, so you're going to fall into the same kinds of rules, but equity right now is still, you know, not even letting people produce. So if they come to the vaccine rolling out and feeling like, okay, if you've got all your actors vaccinated and you feel like you're, you know, at this place, whatever, and they set out a particular set of rules, they may set rules up that feel too cost prohibitive for you to produce. They may, you know, this is for people to understand. They may say you have to have a COVID officer in the house and you have to have a COVID person in the backstage area. So you've got 2 full-time staff members who have to be in charge of COVID regulations.
Testing
Twice a week.
Nobody knows because they're
don't
not
know.
telling anybody.
Well, they're not being very communicative. So Philip has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder.
Absolutely.
I know, I'm not exactly happy either, but you know, so there's a lot of stuff that we don't know yet. So for the folks out there who are like, what are you going to do? We're like, right now we've just tried to, I know for us, we have like a, you know, almost like a spreadsheet grid of, well, these are the things we have to know. These are the things that are going to happen. And the other thing that people don't understand is everything's about money. And I know, like for you probably too, as much as it seems weird, you talked about having the year off, getting to do some things. For us, the same kind of thing. We got to rest a little, which was a nice thing, but we also got to go, well, we got to fundraise and our patrons stayed by us and made sure that we stayed alive, but we had we didn't have production costs. So we did manage to not go under. We did. We just had some small production things, which didn't lose any money, you know, like this show and a couple other things. But we also, we don't have this big overhead for, you know, this kind of production costs this much, this many actors, this much of that. So that helped us kind of go, well, we do have a rainy day fund that we're not draining. We are paying our staff. We've kept our staff on, which we are thrilled about, that we didn't have to lay our small little staff off. We were able to keep everyone and plan and produce and maintain. But you know, I can't say. And I think people are excited to go back to the theater. I think people want to go back to the theater. They want to go back to their sporting events, their music venues, concerts. But how the world is going to absorb that kind of stuff and what's going to happen, I think we're all playing a guessing game.
I mean, one of the things that this time has like really forced upon me, I'll speak for myself, but it's like thinking about, okay, how do we value theater as a community? And is it essential to have good theater in a community? And if so, why? And if we as a society choose and decide that yes, theater deserves to exist, then what are we doing to ensure that it does? So that when things like this happen, and we live in Houston, so we're going to have another hurricane, we're going to have another disruption of a season. What are we doing in order to ensure that, you know, we have solid footing? And I think the biggest thing, obviously, that's setting us back is the depletion of resources and our lack of government funding and reliance on on individual donors and private foundations. And that to me is a real big problem. It's really, really big. And I know that goes to the fundamental difference between size of government and what we want our governments to do. But it really, you know, there are certain social services, and I personally put theater as part of that, and the arts, that, you know, if we really didn't have, who would we become as a species, I think, or as a community? And I think, you know, I wouldn't want to know necessarily. I think the Greeks were sort of were sort of warning against that, or at least that's how I take their plays. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we always say, oh, we don't want to go back to normal. You know, what are these things that we're finding? Well, really, I question, have we gotten too far in this? And this is beyond us as theater, as people who run theaters, but we can certainly advocate. But have we gotten too far in this funding model, or lack thereof, to where, you know, are we in some real trouble? Or can we really, like, I'm so thankful that we've gotten CARES Act money.
Yeah.
And there's this, you know, I'm thankful for, you know, I never thought I would say this, but I'm thankful for, who's our senator? Not Cruz, but Cornyn. And 𝗕𝗲𝗆 working together to do this shuttered venues grant. You know, we still have yet to hear about that, but I think that's going to be a real lifeline for theaters like yours and mine. And imagine if we had that, you know, if we weren't in a disaster, if we had this sort of foundation to say, okay, our society understands that we need to support this. We need to give resources to these companies. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm preaching here, but this is what this time has really given me. Like, it's absolutely absurd the way we do not fund.
I think that, you know, and I think you're not the only person by any means who's had this observation. And I know the Broadway playwright 𝗕𝗲𝗆𝗀𝗀𝗆 has been advocating for, you know, some form of national theater, a works project type thing, which did exist in this country for about 3 or 4 years at one point during the Great Depression. Of course, the problem is it's an easy political target, and the NEA is the same thing. The NEA was much larger until Jesse Helms got it in his sights, you know. Maybe you don't remember that, but there was a senator from North Carolina who seized upon some artwork that was happening that he thought wasn't American or patriotic or whatever, and basically gutted the NEA in the 80s during Reagan. And, you know, I mean, it's even the NEA, even boosting the NEA would change things for us. But yeah, you're right. Your point of this Shuttered Venues Act and the CARES Act money that we've gotten too, it's a huge lifeline, and it's not that hard for government to do.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think one of the other things too that's important, that I think a lot about, that I've thought a lot about since the beginning of our theater company, and part of why our mission was always about paying artists a living wage, is that there's a lack of understanding in the community anymore. And you talk about going back to the Greeks, and you're right, because the Greeks understood that the transference of storytelling and the storyteller was as an important member of the community as the doctor, as the philosopher, as the politician, as anyone else, and that role in the community was as important for the survival of the community and the thriving of people's ability to understand each other and to live together in a peaceful community. And we don't treat theater or storytellers anymore like integral parts of what makes civilizations civil. We don't treat people like that, so they don't have any respect. They're thought of as hobbyists or entertainers, or you know, their job is a passion job, so it's not a real job. And people don't think of plays, or even movies for that matter, as anything but entertainment anymore, instead of them being part of the cultural fabric of what makes society function.
I mean,
And
I wonder if this is like a campaign, like theater is, and then fill in the blank. Like theater is medicine. Theater is, what is theater to you, to us? I'd be interested to see how people answer.
yeah, and I think
Maybe
that
we should start it.
yeah, and I think it's one of those things too that also, one of the things that I also have always been a big proponent of is tiering the system of theater, just like you tier any other profession. In other words, there's the professional, there's the semi-professional, and then there is the hobbyist. We have a very difficult time in this community tiering artists. They don't like it. They don't like to not be the professional, even, and this isn't personal. This is like, even if they're not, if there's someone who isn't trained and isn't professional in regard to that, they want to make it their career and they're trained. And they think, well, I've done 50 plays in a community theater and I have a day job as a nurse, but that means I'm professional because I did 50 plays in a community theater. I'm like, well, no, you're not really. You're not making it a profession. You've never taken a class, and you're repeating a pattern of something you believe is acting. And that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different thing. And when you don't educate people about all those things, it doesn't become a profession anymore. That's a valuable part. Like, I don't want somebody operating on my brain who's just read a book about brain surgery 50 times, but never has operated on anybody's brain or gone through school. I'm like, I realize you read the book 50 times, but I don't really want you to open my head.
This is sort of tangential, but I want to put you on the spot, Matt, and ask, I mean, you said theater is blank, and that's not my question to you, although you can answer it, but why the hell did you start a theater company?
Sometimes we don't know.
No, I know. I actually really know.
I do
why
know
we
too,
did, and I think you do too. And I'd like to hear. I think people would be interested to hear your answer.
I am so. I think it's kind of changed a little bit, but it's still kind of rooted to that core. It goes back to like, come hang out in the living room. Well, one, I'll say I have to do theater like I have to pee. I have no option. When I have to pee.
I always say I don't, but you're right. I do.
Theater is a bodily function.
It's a bodily function. That's good.
So there was just no question. Like, I got to do it, and I have to do it often. So there's that. But going beyond doing theater for myself, because it really isn't necessarily that. It's really about creating a platform for artists, creating a platform for audiences, and making the city like a fun place, making the city a creative place, making Houston just, what can I do to make our community more imaginative and progressive. And I think that knowing who and playwrights that I know, I just had a real passion for getting their work produced. These are some stories that I feel like deserve to be told in our city. And that really was, I think, the start of it. And I think it has now really formed into Rec Room is a platform for artists, and a house or warehouse for like dialogue, people to hang out and create a social dialogue. Yeah, I hope that doesn't sound too like thesis statement, like rambling thesis statement, but yeah, I really, it's just like bringing people together, I guess, if I had to answer.
I think that's great.
I don't think there's any, I think that part of the thing that Kim and I wanted to do, theater our way. We wanted to do things that the two of us just cared about, and we wanted to do, and we wanted to act and direct. And, so that I don't think there's anything wrong about that being the impetus to start. I'm not saying that's what you did, but that was the impetus behind Fourth Wall or Stark Naked.
Well, yeah. And I also felt like, for me, I wanted to I felt it was important to start my own company because I had had some experiences where I didn't feel like I was in a play or in a situation where I reached my highest potential.
Mhm.
And for me, fourth wall is I want to create an environment for artists where they reach a potential of performance that they didn't think they could reach.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has changed over 10 years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
become less about us and
More about what we can reach as a team and what
Yeah.
experience the audience can have that they didn't know they could have in a collective environment, that
Yep.
they have a collective emotional experience based on a play. That for me, ensemble acting skill is really my goal. To get everybody in the same play at a high level of performance is really exciting.
Well, I mean, I think that's a really strong point, is like that raising the bar. And I think like the more theater companies you have, of course, you can reach a point of saturation in regards to your audiences.
No, we have a lot of room.
Yeah, but I do think the more voices we have at the table or in the room, the better our work will get. You know, by seeing each other's work, we push each other. Y'all push me, and you know,
You push us.
and exactly. And to only have one or two or three theater companies in this city with this amount of people, you know, with the population we have, you know, that was part of it, is like, we just need more.
Yeah.
So
And that's the
sometimes
best environment, is where people, it's not about, oh God, they were better than me. It's like, ooh, that was better.
yeah,
I want to do that. And, you know, I'm in an acting class in New York right now. And it's so amazing because this class, people talk about when you do an adjustment, what was great. And it's always love. It's always admiration. And I don't always see that. I mean, I try to do that as a teacher too, but I don't always see that. And I don't know if I don't think people mean to not do it. I think they don't always have the vocabulary to do it, that they don't really understand how to articulate how much something excited them, or how they were like, I want to be able to do that, and go, come over here, let's talk about it. Yeah, I love that. I live for that. That's why
and just like
theater as much as I want to pee.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that theater does, it's just like really contemplates, and this is why I really love it and am attached to it, is it contemplates the psychology and the philosophy of why and how we live. And, you know, I think we need theater artists and audiences in order to kind of grapple that. And I appreciate the voices. The more voices, the better.
I totally agree with that. And I think what's really exciting to me too is I like to watch a new theater and come out and start to come out and stumble a little bit and try to find their footing. And maybe they do a play that's really bad, and then they do something brilliant and they didn't even know they did it. And you're like, that is so amazing, because they're fearless because they have nothing to lose when they're brand new. Because if they don't make it, they just are starting. And so there's something amazing about the fearlessness of being new. And I like to watch the new people. When you get older, you're scared. You're like, we have all these
you have
obligated to, and we have to make class. So you get in a little place where you start to be safe. When you're new and when you're really established, sometimes you have a better sense of freedom. Sometimes there's that middle tier where you're trying to survive the growth spurt that sometimes can be really hard, to fight for that freedom to make mistakes, that freedom to take risks, that freedom to, you know, be creative, and maybe you're going to fail. And that's fun to me. It's exciting. It's scary. It's weird. And
I mean, some of the first shows we've ever done we did at Rec Room were some of the worst shows, but they were also some of the most creative, you know?
Totally. And I don't remember that they were bad. I think most of everything you've done good, but I understand that we're probably pretty critical too. So
is there a production you look back on and go, that's the production where we arrived, or that's the production that defines what I want Rec Room to be? Or I don't know.
I can tell you ours when you tell me yours.
Sure. You should.
I mean, I think honestly, we're, you know, I don't know what season we're in because of, you know, we've just sort of frozen in time, but, you know, we're now approaching our 6th year, I guess. But I would say each show kind of brings in my mind, brings me to, I wouldn't say the next tier, but a step up. But I would say the biggest jump would either have been, I think that would have been, oh my God, it's hard. Maybe Exit Strategy or the Royale, probably the Royale.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, those were both really cool, you know, unique, interesting experiences that you really pulled off in a great way. I agree. I'll tell you what ours was. For me, I still think about this. I think about, I want to do it again, even as hard as it was. I think the experience with the artists on stage and the audience exchange
I think
is
I
the
know where
best
she's
to
going with this.
in my life.
And you
In
were
my
there.
life was Virginia Woolf.
Oh my God, that was such a great
I was right.
That was,
production. I loved it.
There's the whole cast.
I know, except for him. Sorry. But I don't even know if we have like any 4-person pictures, but it was probably, I mean, for a 3-hour play, I would do that play and be like, I can't believe it's over.
Yeah.
It was the set, the design by Kevin Rigdon was amazing. You guys were all amazing. The audience every night, just on like a roller coaster,
Yeah.
just phenomenal.
One of those plays that just is so fun to like I feel like when I watch it, I feel weird like I shouldn't
me
be in the
too.
room. And I love that feeling. And I, you know, I wasn't in the audience obviously for our show, but it felt like being on stage, it kind of felt like that. It was like you know, the whole team y'all put together, and I'm not just saying that because I was in it, but was really, really fun and fantastic and solid.
It was just a great experience.
That experience for me, I just remember it's one of those plays where I just came in thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through the play. Let's go see. And then it always worked out okay. But, and I feel like a fog, like it was a fog for me.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of it. But I don't know why my point is, the first time I ever saw Matt Hune was in The Goat at the Alley Theater. And you are one lucky son of a bitch. You got to be in The Goat.
Yeah.
And Virginia Woolf.
Gotten to be in Virginia Woolf. Have you ever done any other Edward Albee plays?
No, those are the only two, but they're my favorite, I would say. Yeah, no, I would say, yeah, I remember well, you know what? I remember seeing you because you did, just before that, you did Our Lady of 121st Street, right? That was before.
It was probably around there. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think it was because I remember meeting you and because I thought you were so good in that production, and then I saw you, I was like, oh my God, you know, I was a little starstruck, but working with Edward Albee, I mean, one of my favorite stories, you know, well, one, Pam McKinnon directed that, who's fantastic.
And she's now the artistic director at ACT, a huge regional theater in San Francisco.
So we were rehearsing with Pam for a bit, and then Edward Albee came in. I don't remember, maybe a week or two after we had been rehearsing. We were on our feet, and I feel like maybe this is just me remembering it this way, but I feel like the first day he was there, we were working my scene. I was like, oh shit. So, you know, I'm coming in, I'm working. And then I remember him stopping the rehearsal and having to like stop the whole thing. And he's like, Matt, you know, and he tells me like, I didn't utilize the comma that he wrote in the line that I was speaking. So I was like, okay. Yeah, it was a really big lesson for me is, you know, especially with playwrights like Albee, do what's on the page.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Him and Tennessee Williams do what's on the page. I found if I do it, I memorize it faster. They know what they're doing. If they're that great, I mean, sometimes some authors, it's not as important. I don't know how to explain it. You just go, oh, I don't mean to disrespect an author, but it doesn't seem to mess up the rhythm or the stuff as much, but it messes you. I couldn't memorize certain things. And then I paid attention to the punctuation. I went, oh,
our audience should know Matt played Billy in that. And I mean, were you in high school when you did that?
Yeah, I was 18. I was in my senior year.
Yeah.
And so there you are, 18 years old, in the room with Edward Albee, who's known as
him and yes, Edward Albee. But I'll say like Elizabeth Heflin, Todd Waite,
Yeah.
James Belcher, those guys, that was like a masterclass for me. And I feel like that was like, okay, here I am. And then poof, I immediately was just kind of soaked in all of their
Yeah. That's great.
genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, and I'll tell you this too, you know, that what I remember about that time is it was one of the greatest things the Alley to me ever did was the goat was downstairs in the small theater, and then this really good production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was upstairs.
Yeah.
And I got to see those two plays within like 2 days of each other in excellent productions, and it was
Yeah.
totally unforgettable to me.
That's
The
great.
whole experience.
Yeah.
I wish stuff like that happened more.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think, sometimes people, disregard how great a lot of the wonderful American canon is, that people don't do, that's older than 30 years old or, 40 years old. Just new plays are great. We need to do new plays. I don't want to disrespect how important new plays are, but the new plays are built on the backs of the great plays since the Greeks, So remembering the history of how writers learn to write and where the storytelling, impulses and ideals come from is really important too.
Yeah,
And
but at that time, The Goat was a pretty new play.
that
I mean, it
was,
a
yes.
new
I
play,
mean,
and
I'm talking about more now
so
that-
to be able to see a writer at the beginning
Yeah.
of his career, and then at the
end, closer to the end.
the now
Yeah.
at that point,
Mhm.
it was an amazing
That's pretty cool.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, Matt, I'll tell you something else. You were in one of my favorite, I swear to God, this is one of the best plays ever done in Houston, and about 12 people total saw it.
Oh.
Was that amazing
Oh,
production
American
of
Buffalo.
that you
I
did?
know.
Amazing.
Um,
Steve Irish and Drake and over at the Landing,
Kevin Holden
and
at the
Kevin,
Landing Theater.
yeah, and Kevin Holden
Yeah.
directed it. That was a wonderful production.
Mhm.
I wish more people would have seen that.
Yeah, David's company. I loved when his company was in that
That little
with
space that they
UH
used.
downtown. It was it was weird to get, like, when I first went, I was like, am I in the right place? But you walk into that little, again, reminding me of a small New York, Chicago space.
Yeah.
Kevin Holden is just so fun to work with.
Yeah.
And of course, Drake and Steve Irish. Just
Well,
great
you worked
production.
with Kevin on our production of Macbeth,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
Which was also
absolutely.
a really fun production that we got to do.
there we are.
There's a
Oh.
link to that. Oh, there we
There
are.
I am, Matrenga and I
You and
getting,
David.
getting our.
We'd love-
Yeah, struggling over your dilemma to kill Macbeth or find out about your dead father or whatever it was you were finding out there.
So Matt, did you grow up in Houston?
I did.
And
Yeah.
then you went away to school.
At DePaul.
Yeah, I went to DePaul in Chicago, and then stayed there for a little bit. Did a little stint in Minneapolis, and then came back.
What
Mhm.
brought you back?
I'll say family primarily, but also to me, Houston at the time, Houston just felt like the Wild West for theater companies in terms of starting one. I don't know if I was right, but it felt like that as a 20 whatever year old. And I just was excited about, I felt like Chicago was a great theater town. I feel like one of the best.
Yeah.
And but I also felt like it was a bit saturated. So my thought was, let's come down here and
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted to start a theater company when you came back to Houston?
I feel like I've wanted to start a theater company since I was 10.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did.
Yeah. Well, I would have ended up in Chicago if I hadn't met him. That's where I was going after I came back here to finish my degree, because Edward Albee had told me to get the hell out of Houston when he was at U of H when I was here in the early 90s. So probably around the time of the Go. Yeah. So maybe not quite that.
No, we were
No, 'cause the Go was in 2000. That was
2003.
Lorca. That's when he did Lorca over there. His piece that didn't do so well. He did a piece called Lorca that he took over there, and
You guys are
But
so lucky. Matt,
we
you got
both got to have some
you got to
time with
rehearse
Edward.
with Edward, and Kim got him as a teacher. And my one real exchange with 𝗕𝗲𝗏 was in the lobby at Stages. We were doing a play at Stages, our first play that we produced, and I saw him in line to get tickets or something, and I said, hey, you should come see our play. And he said, oh, well, I can't tonight. I'm going to see a show. It's a circus performed entirely by cats.
He's so crazy.
And he was really excited about that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay.
All right then.
Nice to meet
Yeah.
you.
He was
I
a
know
funny
you saw
guy.
me in a couple of plays.
Yeah,
but
he
I
was
never
at Oh, the
really-
Humanity the night with Eno that you were.
Yeah, I
He
never-
didn't. He wasn't happy about that.
Oh, really?
got
He was
to
an Eno fan, right? I think
Yeah,
he was.
yeah,
Yeah.
They're
he
friends.
helped, you know,
Yeah,
get
Yeah.
started.
yeah. We were fortunate enough to get to know. That's one of the most wonderful human beings in the world is Will Eno. We got to spend some time with him in New York when I was there that summer before the Realistic Joneses, which you were going to direct for us.
I
but you didn't.
know.
And that's okay. We're going to get you back over there to direct
you back
something and get
over.
to
We'll
work
get
with
you
us
over.
because we miss you and we love getting to collaborate. So, or us over there or whatever, something. We'll do something
Absolutely.
together at some point. So, but I know we're getting close to
Yeah,
closing.
we
So,
got 5 minutes left. Is there anything that we
Yeah.
haven't mentioned about Rec Room that you'd like to talk about?
Jeez, I feel like probably. I'll just say, like, check out the sound scripts. We're still trucking along. I'm excited for when we do open to, premiere. I'm not going to say our new space, but our upgraded space, and
yeah,
get back to it. It's really
me
what I'm
too.
looking
We are
forward to.
too. I can't wait to be in your theater, seeing
Yeah.
live theater again. I'm
Yeah.
getting my shots as soon as I can get them, and I'm
Yeah.
ready. Be
Mhm.
out there in the world, with if I have to wear a mask in the audience, I got no problem with that. I'll do whatever I got to do to see the live theater. I'm
Yeah.
totally happy to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have
Well,
any embarrassing theater stories?
he loves that. He loves to ask everybody to tell an embarrassing theater story.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot. Well, I'll go back to, like, this isn't really embarrassing. It was like kind of fun, actually. But this one really sticks out in my mind. In the goat, we were running the goat, and those of you don't know, it is about a man who has an affair with a goat. And there was a pretty boisterous, loud woman in the audience who was commenting throughout the whole thing. And there's this one scene where Martin has to he confesses to his friend Ross that he's has an affair with the goat. And before the big confession line, she just blurts out, "He's fucking a goat."
I've always thought that should be the marketing tagline for
Right?
the show anyway.
It should,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Just helped him out there. Give him a
Oh
little.
my God, poor Todd and
James, right? Yeah. They had to be like, so anyway,
She's right.
that's what she said.
Hey, play's done.
Oh, that's great. Well, we don't want to keep you. We are so grateful for your time. We miss seeing you. We miss being.
Yeah, this was so nice. It was like getting coffee.
I know. That's what we
Sounds
wanted. We
good.
just wanted to chat and let some people be flies on the wall in our theater conversation. So that's really what
We've
it
already
is.
got a great review from Veronica Robles.
Yep, yep.
Awesome interview. Thank
Yep.
you.
And
Oh my God, thank you guys, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate y'all doing this, and I can't
we
wait
love
to
doing it.
hang
We
out
love
in
getting to
person.
see you. We're going to let you drop off. We're going to remind our audience about next week. So if you want to just say goodbye and head on out, we are really grateful for having you, and we'll hopefully see you very, very soon.
Okay, bye, you guys.
Bye,
Bye,
Matt.
Matt.
Thanks. And for all of you still with us, we just want to let you know that please tune in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from tonight, and we will have the wonderful Kenn McLaughlin.
There he is. There's a good picture
Yay! Yes, beautiful
of Kenn
Kenn.
McLaughlin.
We're so
smiling
excited to
like
have
a
him.
nice guy he is.
Yes, he's going to be with us. And so please tune in and join us. And we will be sending out emails to remind you. And until then, please take care, stay safe. And thank you so much for joining us on our show and being a part of the Fourth Wall family. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to support Fourth Wall with a tax-deductible gift, or to subscribe to our upcoming 10th anniversary season.
All right, so we're at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to push the go button and we'll introduce ourselves, and then we'll just fill up. We'll start asking some questions. I'll ask some questions, talk
Maybe.
about whatever we want.
Find out.
We'll figure out how it goes. All right.
Cool.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start it. Okay, 3, 2,